Hi, my name is Deacon Pete Levina. I've been here at Christ the King. I've been ordained here at Christ the King for 40 years. I've enjoyed being here. The people of Christ the King are just absolutely wonderful. I've enjoyed my service here, and it's been a wonderful spiritual years ahead of me. Okay.
And I'm Paula Levita, and we've been married 50 years. And we joined the parish when our oldest daughter was a baby. And that's been 47 years. So most of our lifetime we've been at Christ the King Church. It's been, in those years, we've built many healthy, wonderful relationships. So we're always pleased to be in this church.
Mine starts even before Paul and I were married. I was stationed. I was brought here from by the military. I was stationed in Taiwan for 13 months, and then the Air Force deposited me here in Columbus. And one Sunday, a bunch of us were wondering, the base chapel is nice, but we really like to go to a real church. So we drove around Columbus and scattered around and looked, and finally we saw this church, and we said, "Wow, is this a Catholic church?" So we said, we weren't sure, so we pulled in the parking lot, and it happened to be that this is way back in 1967. So we walked in the church. It was open, and my first glance when we looked into the from the vestibule into the church itself, it grabbed me, and I said, "Oh my God, there's a theater around. This is beautiful. Is this place Catholic?" So we rummaged around and we looked we saw the Stations of the Cross and looked at the stained glass windows. And I said, "Yeah, this is a Catholic church." So we really got excited, and then each Sunday, if we weren't working, we came here for Mass and just enjoyed the heck out of it. So it was a wonderful experience. For me, it was just an experience coming here every Sunday, grabbed by the beauty of the church. I just couldn't believe it. Then once Paula and I were married, then
then that comes in my story. I grew up in this area and went to St. Catherine's. I went to St. Catherine's School. I went to Bishop Hartley, but I never came to this church. So it wasn't until 2 years after we were married that we moved into a house that's actually in the district. And it was, in those years, you didn't go just to any church you wanted to. You stayed within the boundaries. And so we lived in the boundaries of Christ the King. So I moved from my home church of St. Catherine's to the neighbor's church, Christ the King. And that has been when I was just in my 20s. So. We really loved it here.
Oh yeah.
Father Hanley was our pastor, and he was such a dynamo. He was just a great, great, great pastor.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy. For me, my first memory was when Monsignor Bill Kappas caught his missalette on fire during the Easter Vigil. What happened was we were back in the vestibule. It was Father Donovan, Father Stan Benesky, Monsignor William Kappas, and myself. And we were back in the vestibule at that time. The Litany of the Saints was being sung, and we were waiting for the new people who were coming into the church to come into the vestibule, because that's where the baptismal font was. So we were standing there, and all of a sudden, Father Donovan said to Monsignor Kappas, "Bill, your book's on fire." No response from Monsignor Kappas. He says it again, "Bill, the book's on fire. Still no response from Monsignor Kappas. Finally, he said, Bill, your book's on fire. He went over and knocked the book out of his hand, stomped on the thing, the entire, until the fire was out. And as far as being a solemn experience, that was the end. Both we couldn't keep a straight face. We just laughed or smiled the entire rest of the mass. It was just an incredible experience. And we just and then at the end, people were coming up and questioning all of us, saying, "What was going on back there? What was happening?" You know. So we have to explain that there was a book on fire, that Monsignor Kappas wasn't responding to the emergency of the situation. So it was quite an experience.
For me, at the request of Father Trainer, who was another of our longtime pastors, and he asked me to start a family life committee, which I did. And we had year-round events, but to kind of focus it more in, we had several family retreats where we went to the Hocking Hills. One of those retreats was right after 9/11. And we had parents, we had children, and we had many retreats for children, which was more play-like, and then a very serious retreat for the adults. And Pete was the presenter of the retreat, and I was the organizer. The discussions following 9/11 were in-depth and heartfelt and overwhelming. It was such a beautiful thing to do in the midst of chaos. And I think about that as we've witnessed chaos this year even. It was God really being present for all of us. That was really great. And
Yeah, I would say for me, being, I've been here, serving here for 40 years. The faith of the people that I've known and I've served, whether it's baptisms or weddings or funerals, have just been such a wonderful experience, and seeing their faith has really been a help for my faith. Seeing that they were being so faithful in serving here at Christ the King, and being present for a variety of different programs that we've had, and coming to Mass every Sunday has been a wonderful, an eye-opening experience for me. Seeing that people can be so faithful and being so a part of a community. And seeing the community grow from actually the community, it was very large when I first got here and served back in 1980 or even before then. It was really thriving, and then it kind of started to shrink, and then with Monsignor Trainer inviting the Hispanic population coming to become part of Christ the King, and seeing that all of a sudden start to grow again, and seeing their faith, and seeing how they responded to God's call, has been a wonderful experience for me. That I just cannot put a thought process or a value on or anything. It's just been a wonderful experience of 40 years of friendship and community and service.
One special thing happened every year. And before I was even 30 years old, I started going to Christ the King Women's Retreat. And the first one, I had never been to a retreat, was when we had just 2 babies, and it was a wonderful just day event. And then it evolved, it kept evolving, so that the women of Christ the King put together our own retreats. We had one retreat leader said, "You can do it." And we went, "Oh, can we?" Well, yes, we could. We could. And for many years, over 30 years, probably 35 years, every January, we started the year with women's retreat, a weekend at St. Teresa's. And it was the most deeply spiritual, bonding, laughter, tears, snow like we have now, outdoors, indoors, sledding, till our climate kind of changed. And as St. Teresa's then evolved, there were more buildings, so we couldn't do that. But it used to have woods, and we'd trek back into the woods. We'd come back refreshed. We'd be filled with the Holy Spirit. People would have tragedies that went on and came for refreshment. We had people coming from other parishes on invitations. We presented to one another. We cared for one another, and now we know.
I would say for Christ the King, the future of Christ the King is I think it's on the right path. The diversity is probably the key here at Christ the King, and I'm hoping that it continues to be a diverse parish. Because that's what makes it so unique and so different, and you see different cultures, and it's also a very welcoming parish. I feel that we're very open to, like I said, different cultures, whether it's from African, from Spanish, from wherever. And the different religions that we have French-speaking people here, Spanish people speaking. I think we may even have 1 or 2 Chinese people, and of course Anglo English. But the church has been a real, I want to say, so it's a part of this community of Berwick. And the different programs that we've had here have really been open to the community, with the truck, food trucks and other things like that we've had. But mainly, I just hope that the future of Christ the King continue in this process of being welcoming, being a open parish. One of diversity and one of future thinking, and especially with the Bishop Griffin Center, that will continue to be a church of hope for people who are struggling with whether it's food or clothing or whatever, that we can always reach out to those who are struggling within our community.